So today we have a First Communion Mass, but unlike the other First Communion Masses we've only have one person signed up for this First Communion Mass, so Emma gets a very special First Communion homily directed directly just at her. So sorry to sort of put you on the spot here, but that's just how it is. I'm sorry that none of your classmates signed up, so we have some empty pews here. And the rest of my homily kind of hinges on this very important question. Do you like freezies? Yes, okay. Whew. My homily wasn't going to work if you said no. Thank goodness. So, we're finally getting some good weather now, right? Which means, for me, I really like it because I get to ride around on my one-wheeled electric skateboard, which Emma actually saw me doing earlier today, apparently, as I was on my way to get some lunch. But also, it means it's time for freezies. Yes, those delicious treats, many different flavors, right? When it's nice and hot out, a nice freezy, icy snack just makes things so much better, right? And what is the best part about freezies? What's your favorite freezy flavor, Emma? Do you have one? Red, that's right. And that's the thing about freezies. You don't even necessarily know what the flavor is, you know what your favorite color is. Because what do freezies do to your tongue? They turn your tongue to that color. If you have a red freezy, your tongue turns red, right? If you have a blue freezy, your tongue turns blue. If you have a purple one, that's my favorite, your tongue turns purple, right? And then, of course, you go around going, to all of your friends, showing them your tongue, because that's the most fun part about the freezy, is that you become like part of the color of the freezy, right? When we eat freezies, we kind of become more like the freezies, right? And here's the thing. Why am I talking about freezies on a First Communion? Well, St. Augustine, he lived a long time ago, right? One of the greatest saints of the church, he said, when we receive the Eucharist worthily, we become what we receive. So kind of like a freezy, where we become more like a freezy when we eat a freezy because we start to absorb some of that freezy's color on our tongue, right? When we receive the Eucharist in a worthy way, we become more like Jesus, who is the Eucharist that we receive, right? We become more like Jesus when we receive the Eucharist, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus. You've probably heard the phrase before, you are what you eat, right? If you eat good food, you'll be healthy. If you don't eat good food, you won't be healthy. Well, guess what the best food of all to eat is? The best food that nourishes our soul. That's Jesus, right? And so we become like what we receive, right? And so we want to foster that, to help that, right? Now, if you drink a bunch of water after you have a freezy, that'll make your tongue no longer be the freezy color, right? Yeah, it'll wash away, right? And just like that, there's some things that sometimes we can do that'll make us be less like Jesus even after we receive the Eucharist, or we can do things that make us more like Jesus when we receive the Eucharist, right? If we do things that make the freezy go away, we aren't as much like the freezy anymore, right? And we can also do things that even if we receive the Eucharist, if we sin, we become less like Jesus. But if we foster that, if we foster what we have, like say if you have a red freezy and you have another red freezy, your tongue's going to become more red, right? Well, if you practice the virtues, if you try to be more like Jesus as you receive him, you'll become more and more like Jesus, right? And what does it mean to be like Jesus? Well, we heard about a little bit in the gospel today that he is the good shepherd, right? And he wants to bring everyone to his Father. And ultimately, that's what we want to do as Christians, is to bring people to come to know and love Jesus. So as we receive the Eucharist and receive it worthily so that we become more like Jesus, we want to become more like Jesus, who is the shepherd, who leads people to God the Father. And we do that by our example, right? It looks like you're an older sibling, Emma, right? You got some younger siblings there. You want to be a good example to them so that they learn how to be like Jesus, so that they can imitate you, especially they haven't received their First Communion yet, and you will. So you'll have a responsibility to be good to them and to show them what it's like to be Jesus, just like your parents have that responsibility for you, right? And so everyone you meet, all of your friends, you have that responsibility now. If I'm receiving Jesus and becoming more like Jesus by receiving him, now I really have to try to be more like Jesus, right? And if we mess up, what do? We can go to confession, right? And that'll restore that life of Jesus to us. Whenever we might sin, some of that spiritual freezy color might fade away, right? We can go to confession and receive communion and have that restored, right? And so, especially today, to just remember, when I receive Jesus, I become more like him. When we eat food, it becomes part of us, right? And so Jesus becomes part of us when we receive him. And so, to remember that and say, how can I leave today and go forward for the rest of my life, trying to be more like Jesus, who I've just received in the Eucharist and who I've become a part of by receiving him in the Eucharist, right? So that I can become more and more like him and grow holier and holier each day, so that Jesus can be the shepherd who leads me to heaven, and I can be that shepherd for other people who lead others to heaven as well.